everyone. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are around the world. My name is Gary Waters, and with me on the other side of the host is...
Jared Hughes from Northern
So,
Ireland Coast Hunting Team.
so it's a big hello from us, and we do have an exciting show lined up for you guys tonight. Unfortunately, some of the guests couldn't make it, so we're down to two, which makes it a wee bit easier for us to interview the people, and it gives us a bit more time as well to ask a few questions as well. So, Jared, what have you been up to over the last few weeks since our wee mini break over the summer holidays?
Oh, I've been flat out, Gary. To be honest with you, I spent since I started releasing this lockdown, I've been spending a lot more time now with the grandkids. Absolutely loving it. And of course, I got my new Harley Davidson. Vroom vroom.
Do you know what? I was actually waiting to find out how long you would take you to actually mention that. So we're, 2 minutes in and you've mentioned it already?
You're going to hear it a lot more.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty exciting.
Right out on Sunday.
Yeah.
So yourself, how have you been getting on?
I've been fine. Yeah, I've been busy with work, obviously, and we got a new recruit to the Waters household over the last 24 hours. We got a new puppy. Hopefully she will make an appearance later on if my daughters will stop playing with her downstairs. And also, obviously, we've been heading out on the bikes as well. So it's been very, very exciting for us. And it was great to get a wee break from it, but we're back tonight, exciting new show. And then we'll have another wee break after tonight's show, but we're back early August and we're going to be running a lot more regular segments on a Friday evening coming into the dark, spookier nights as well. So just give a couple of wee shout outs, first of all, to Rachel Hanning. Hi, everyone. Hi, Rachel. How are you? To Kate. Hi, Kate. She's saying hello, Jared. With Kenneth Torres. Good afternoon from California. Nice one, Kenneth. Nice to meet you. We have Jenny Sullivan Sunshay. Hi, guys. Have a great show. Thanks, Jenny. Jenny is from Emerald Isle Paranormal Researchers or Investigation Team as well.
I see Kenneth must be a biker from the California chapter. Oh,
right. Okay. A big hello, Kenneth. Nice meeting you. One of our fellow brothers, I should say, as well. So back onto the show, Jared. So on tonight's show, the first special guest we have is a young lady called Emma Louise. She's an investigator. She's also an author. And she's also written a book as well, which we're going to be talking about in full fold later on this evening as well. And I believe it's been getting a lot of reviews, exciting reviews as well. So, Jared, do you want to bring her in then? Hey, Emma, how's you?
Hi.
How you doing, Emma?
Thanks.
Good. Nice to finally meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, and I've already I had the pleasure of meeting you last. I think it was last year.
Yeah,
was it the year before?
This time last year, actually.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, our first visit there, and it was an adventure. Let me tell you. So it was. It was a really interesting night. For anybody that wants to watch that, just go to Ghost Searches Ireland, type in Sharon Rector, and you'll see the whole investigation from start to finish. And we've got some really, really very good evidence. But so what we do, Emma, we always ask our guests, and you'll be no different, obviously, as well. Where did this all start for you? Did it start at an early age with your supernatural occurrences?
It did. Of course, I grew up in Sharon Rectory, which is famously known to be haunted. So I was very young whenever I had my first paranormal experience. And I suppose the way that you could look at it is that either you fear it and kind of close it off, or you embrace it and kind of want to find out more of why there's a haunting and just kind of research a wee bit more into it. Like, so as I got older, it was something that kind of was really interested in then. Yes, I was scared, don't get me wrong. There's definitely moments that I've had that I think I need to get out of here. I can't deal with it any longer. But as I got older and got a little bit more braver, I started to kind of look more into the paranormal and kind of why the house was the way it was, and just things started to gradually kind of, unfold, as you would say, of why the house is the way it is.
And what age were you when it all started then?
My parents first bought the house in the late 1990s. So I was probably about 6 at the time whenever I first seen the house. And of course, whenever I seen the house, it was just a big, scary old house. But whenever my first kind of proper encounter and introduction with the house, when I was walking around through, it felt like the walls had eyes. I know it sounds silly, but it really did feel like that you were constantly being watched. And to me, I didn't have any idea what was going on in the house, if there were any stories, I didn't know anything about the murders that took place in the house. So it was new to me, feeling like this. But walking around through the house, each room kind of was just in ruins. The whole place needed completely gutted and renovated. So
Yeah.
my parents they had a big project on their hands, but they did it. And as I say, like it's 20 years later, but we're still working on the house. You're never going to be finished with an old building like this. There's so much
No.
work that needs to be put into restoring and keeping it.
Yeah.
It's a big project.
Yeah, it is a big house, and it's one of those houses that obviously it has a lot of rooms, small rooms, big rooms, medium-sized rooms, and it's you if you didn't know your way around, I mean, okay, I'm pretty crap at directions and things, but I got lost a couple of times. As Jared, you'll back me up on that. He's nodding, yeah. So yeah,
We just walked
so
in from a bedroom into another bedroom, and it just
yeah,
rooms kind of going into other rooms. So it's quite
yeah,
it's just the layout of the house is
yeah.
kind of odd, but yeah.
Yeah, it is a beautiful house. And it's one when you walk in the first time. I mean, I'm not a psychic medium or class myself as a sensitive, but when I walked in, it's just one of those houses where the atmosphere just comes out and hits you, and it sort of
Yes, it does.
takes you back a wee bit. I'm sure I'm not the only one who has actually said that as well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, we've had many people come in and instantly feel the kind of heaviness that's kind of in the house. We've had so many people kind of try to help clear the house over the years, like, and it just seemed to be the case that whatever is there just it isn't willing to leave right now. And like all the spirits that we do have in the house, there's ones there that we have accepted that will stay, and just they don't want to kind of leave. So we have no problem with them, like, and they're just, at the end of the day, it was their home before it was ours, so we accept that.
It's a good
It's
way.
just
It's a
kind
good
of
way
more
of saying it.
yeah, I think it's just kind of more the negative things that we have in the house that is quite bothering. That's the stuff that we're dealing with and we're really struggling with sometimes. So
Yeah. Sorry, we're getting a few questions coming in there. They're asking about your microphone. Is there any way, Emma, if you could turn your microphone up a wee bit? Because you are just a wee bit on the low side. Or maybe
yeah,
if you can hold it.
I'll try and see if that's slightly better.
Um,
Try unplugging the headset and just using the microphone on the computer.
no, can't hear you at all now.
No, put the headset back in.
Yeah.
No. Sorry, folks, we're just having a couple of technical difficulties here. We'll sort them out in a minute. Try that, Emma.
The joys of life. Go again? No, can't hear you.
Not at all now. What do we say?
Oh, here, yeah, you've made. Hold on. Unmute your mic. That's what it is. Let's see if I can do it. I think your mic is muted on your side, Emma. I see the wee box along the bottom. If you can unclick your unmute mic. I don't think we can do it, can we? Right. Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Right. If you could just maybe we'll bear with it. If you could just maybe try and speak up a bit.
Yeah.
And we'll just bear with it.
Yeah, no, that's no problem.
Okay.
It's the ghost.
know,
If you've got a milk bottle, if you shut in the milk bottle, it brings up the. No, I'm only joking. So yeah, so basically, so you started to get older and you started to experience the wee odd thing, and it started to make you open your eyes to what was going on. Was there at any time that you approached your mom and your dad and you told them, "Look, guys, there's strange phenomena going on here that I don't understand"?
Yeah, when I first started to see a lady coming into the room at night, she was an apparition that I was seeing at night. I was kind of scared to say to my parents at the start because we just moved in, and I thought that maybe they would think that I'm making it up and that I don't want to stay here and I want to move back to the old house. So
Yeah.
I kind of persevered and kind of just went with it, and I never really
Hmm.
kind of said much to them.
Yeah.
I wasn't sleeping at night. They could clearly see that there was something going on, but I didn't realize that they too were seeing the same thing as what I was seeing, and of course they wouldn't say to me. So it was just I had to really deal with it. But it was later on then I did say to my mum, and she did say, what you're seeing, don't be scared. She's not going to harm you. She wasn't encouraging in it, but she was trying to kind of in a way comfort me, that it
Yeah.
wasn't that I shouldn't be scared. But
Hmm.
at the end of the day, if you're seeing a ghost, you're going to be
Yeah.
scared. So,
Yeah, well, I mean, most parents, I suppose, would say that to try to protect your children in a way. They're not going to
yeah,
turn around and say, "Oh, be very, very careful." They always try to make it as easy as possible for the children that's in the house. We've experienced that over the years with and doing house investigations, where the parents would obviously you aren't going to scare your children, but when they see investigators coming in, obviously they're
mhm,
going to ask questions. So we would always say to the client, "Look, the best way to do this is not to explain to your children that we're coming in. Just bring them away for the night, take them away for the night. We'll come and we'll do it privately, and they will report back to what our findings is. So it's one of them things. It's a fright or flight. You're not going to scare the bejesus out of your kids,
of course.
But
Yeah, I
Jared, you know
think
yourself.
the way my parents seen it too is that we were going to be living here permanently, so they knew that
Mm,
this was probably going to happen more than once, and they heard all the stories with the house. So what do you
yeah,
say, that it's eventually going to go away, even though I'm still going to keep seeing it? So they didn't want to lie to me neither. So they wanted to try and keep it as comforting to me. So
yeah,
they did
but
is not to worry, not to be scared.
yeah,
tell me this, Sharon. Because it's all the Sharon rectories. It's all pretty new to me, and I've been doing a bit of reading up on it. Was it mainly you that was targeted?
No, it's majority of my family that have seen and witnessed things in the house. My kids, everybody's seen things in the house. My parents were, it was only just me and my parents when we first moved in. My sister wasn't born. But later, I think as the years progressed and as the years kind of went on, uh, more and more things kind of happened to us. And there was more things that was kind of making it more profound, that there was things that was in the house that wasn't necessarily nice. We've all witnessed, things flying off the walls, pictures and stuff flying off the walls, doors banging, furniture moving. We've all been held down in the bed, and I understand the sleep paralysis, but this is different. Whenever I witnessed it, I was awake, and I felt a physical hand hold me down in the bed. And my dad was the same. It was the same situation he was in, where he was awake and he physically felt the pressure of a hand holding him down. Um, I've been scratched. My sister's been scratched. There's been other things too that's happened that is it's quite scary, like for my parents too. Like, just my dad doesn't really like to be talking about these things too, so I don't really kind of encourage talk about the things that happen. But
yeah.
I write about the majority of it on my book. It's just sometimes very difficult to kind of talk about it, of the stuff that we have been through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was a turning point for you then when you thought, right, okay, I've experienced all this, I'm gonna write a book about it? What was your turning point? Because I'm sure, I'm sure there's a lot more houses around the world that's haunted. People are afraid to come forward for help,
Of course, yes,
and
this is
you've put it out there to the public, which is amazing.
I've put it out there because
Yeah.
for many years, the amount of people that actually gave us so much hate for, people asking us about what had happened and what
Yeah.
what we were experiencing, and we were trying to sit and explain to people what had happened. And of course, it's like Chinese whisper. People start talking and the rumors and
Hmm.
the jokes start, and then it's like them tullies up there on drugs, So it was like it was
Yeah.
just it kind of bothered me in a sense that people were so ignorant to the fact that we were going through something that was really terrifying us, and they
Yeah.
joked about it. And I thought, no, you can either cower away and not speak or not speak up about it. I wanted to document it. I wanted to write about it because at the end of the day, it's experience that I'm not afraid to speak about. Um, I grew up with it. I kind of don't can I remember before I didn't see ghosts, so it was kind of something that I always kind of had in my life. So I just thought, write the book. What's the worst can happen?
Yeah.
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 You know, I noticed you mentioned. I noticed you mentioned in the book, Emma, that well, there's the Blue Lady, right, which was thought to be Sarah Walker,
Sarah Waller.
who was murdered, right? And you also mentioned a dark, malevolent spirit.
Hmm.
Um, you discovered who that was.
Well, what we believe is a demonic entity that's in the house. Other people has actually says that it's an elemental. Uh, all we know it's a malevolent entity. It's dark. That's the one that's attacking. That's the one that's scratching. It's not coming from the likes of Mrs. Waller or any of the rest of the spirits in the house. It's this one dominant entity that is in the house that just attacks.
Hmm.
It's we've from what we've learned, just over the last year or so, it's this has been on the land for many years. It's I suppose with the murders and with all the other dark kind of different things that kind of happened and incidents that
Hmm.
happened on the property and in the house, I'd say that probably fueled it and that kept it here. And it's not only that, but with renovations, with everything else, that can disturb things, that can
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know keep people going. So that's what I
Yeah.
believe that kept it here, and it's just something that if you're having a bad day and you're lashing out and you're fighting and things like that, that's the stuff that kind of fuels this negativity. So we're just trying to, I don't know what you would say, we can't just living with it for now, like until we find that right person that knows how to move it or how to shift it.
So, what is the story of Sarah Waller? Was she murdered in the rectory?
She was murdered in the rectory, and also a Reverend William Hamilton.
Mm, that's
Reverend
right.
Hamilton,
Hmm.
he wasn't of the house. He didn't own the house. He was just a guest the night of the murders. It was the United Irishmen. They had a vendetta against Hamilton, and they lay siege upon the rectory. And the two of them was murdered on that fateful night. This happened on the 2nd of March, 1797. I write
Mm.
all about the history in the book and just kind of what had happened that night.
When you mentioned about the possible demon, when we were there, and I know you watched it yourself, we were doing a ghost box session. It was down in the wee back room where the stairs is. I think you guys were
Yes,
there as well.
yeah, it was the
Yeah,
coachman's.
yeah, the
Mm-hmm.
coachman's, yeah. And we were using a wooden box. It's possibly a Dybbuk box, which we're going to find out at a later date what's in the box. But when we were doing the white noise experience of the Franks, the ghost box, we did get through, if I remember, it said demonic. And that backs up what you were telling us, and also what's in the book as
Yeah.
well. So that to us was possible credible evidence, to get material like that. And
Mm-hmm.
it's the same as what you are experiencing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Have you ever thought of the possibility that this malevolent spirit may well be the murderer of Sarah Waller?
I don't think so. Because the night of the siege, there was supposed to have been I think 150 to 200 men of the United Irishmen. So that murder I don't know if it's just going to be that one person that's going to be here. I really doubt it. I
Yeah.
do believe that whatever's here is very old and very intelligent. and I don't think I'd ever walk the earth as human. Personally, I don't. I've had many other people kind of feel the same way. So I suppose it's just getting that right person to come in and just know for definite if this is that's what it is like. But I suppose we're just going to time's just going to tell that, you know, eventually, hopefully, we might get rid of it.
Yeah. We'll have a guest coming on later, Emma Louise, where maybe we should put you in contact with him. He's a demonologist. He's well renowned all over the world. And I think maybe he might be able to give you some advice.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Yeah,
Well,
definitely.
Yeah.
how about this? How about this? What time is he coming on at, Gary?
It's coming on at 9 o'clock.
At 9 o'clock. Well,
Yeah.
how about, Emma, if you popped back into the background around 9:30 or around 9:30, and
Mm.
we'll maybe put the two of us in the same room, and you can ask those questions to him directly.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah, that could be done.
Could that be done? You know, I mean, this guy's a very, very knowledgeable. He's actually a grandson of the Warrens,
Okay.
and he is the founder member of the Warren Legacy Foundation, which deals with paranormal groups worldwide. He's also a demonologist and an exorcist. He's a very, very knowledgeable guy, and you might be able to get some information from him. So maybe if you wanted to pop in around 9:30, and
Yeah, that'd be good.
That would be very helpful. Yes.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to hear. Be interesting to hear you both talking about it, you know, and the bad sides, you know, the scratches, etc. What's causing the scratches? I mean, I've got scratched once, and I got 3 scratches. My wife, she got scratched, and she got 3 scratches. So that we'll have to, you know, they'll say it's a marking of the Trinity. But if anybody will know, it'll be Chris. You know, Chris will know everything about that. You know, so you've had an interesting experiences so far at Sharon Rectory. Would you ever consider? I know you live on the same grounds. I think you live in the house next door. Or would you ever consider moving back in there again to live permanently in the future?
No, I won't. Not in the main house. I experience my own things out here that isn't as bad as the main house. But this is what I could live with. Do you know what I mean? I just couldn't put
Yeah.
myself back and my kids back in the actual main house again. It wouldn't be wise.
Yeah.
and how are you feeling about it, Emma, today? I mean, from what I've been listening to, it must have been horrific for you. You know, some of the things that you went through in that place.
Oh, definitely. It's something that's going to stay with me for the rest of my life. You know, the things I've witnessed, the things that I've had happen to me, the things that, you know, that I've seen with my own eyes. There's no doubt in my mind that it's real. It's very real what is going on in this house. And anybody who tries to tell me otherwise, I'm sorry. It's just I've been through far too much.
Well, you see, it's one of those things, Emma, that, I mean, I've spoke to Gary about it on many occasions. You know, Gary has had personal experiences. I've had personal experiences, and when you tell someone else about those personal experiences, they go, you know, maybe a couple of glasses of whiskey last night too many, or whatever. Do you know what I mean? But the important thing about it is that you know what went on in that house, and you're the person that has to deal with it. Do you know what I mean? Really, that's all that matters. Do you know what I mean?
Totally, definitely agree.
You know, I mean, you could try and convince people. I'm very, very interested. It's a place actually now I haven't read up about it. I'd love to visit it. I really would.
No, you wouldn't. It's haunted.
No, that's okay for me, Gary. I am not the person who is afraid to do a lone vigil.
Shh, nobody knows about that. That's our secret. But no, actually, do you know what? I think I actually did a lone vigil there in Sharon Rectory. Yeah, I did, because that's.
I don't know if it was the cellar that you went down, or if it was.
Yeah,
The majority of the time when I lone vigil, it was down in the cellar. Actually, the cellar isn't as bad now. it's probably more peaceful. It's probably one
Oh,
of the more
really?
peaceful places than what it's. Whatever's in the house moves. It moves around. It used to be kind of, whenever I was growing up, I dreaded walking past the cellar door because I thought you always had that fear of it opening and you getting sucked in and not being able to get back out again. I know it sounds crazy, but I wouldn't be
Yeah,
surprised in that house. It
yeah,
just was, it was something that, I feared. But as kind of the recent years, whatever has, what resided in there is actually walking freely through the house. And I don't know if it always did, or it was just maybe we're starting to notice it a lot more. And it just can't hide from us as much because it is quite a big energy.
yeah,
The things people, the things that has happened, that I can say that thing has done, people wouldn't believe. Like it's quite a strong energy, to manipulate the way it does. And
yeah.
it's quite scary, like. And I honestly don't know, what exactly it is, to be totally
What it
honest. Like, I
is?
want to say that it's demonic, like, but then
Yeah.
again, I don't know, like.
Yeah, well, we'll try to pick up on that on the second part of this segment here. We'll get a wee break at the minute. We'll give you a wee break. This is a part of the show that I enjoy. So here we go.
Audio Jungle.
So basically what we're going to do here, I'm going to show you a wee clip. This has been going around the internet for a short while. I also think there was a TV show that had went to this house to investigate it as well. The footage you're about to see is, and Emma, you can pick up on this as well because I know you're an investigator as well, along with Jared. He's freelance. Have a look at this footage, and if everybody at home as well, would be interesting to get your thoughts on this bit of footage. It's a nanny camera or a night vision camera, and it's looking over the baby's cot. So this is what was captured. Here we go.
This disturbing video caught by their nanny cam of what appears to be a ghost walking by their baby's crib.
It was chilling. It was literally a chill down your spine, like that what if factor. Like, is this what I just saw? It's freaky, is what it is.
The couple is staying in the home.
Okay, so yeah. It's something you don't see every day. When I originally looked at it, I thought, was it sometimes when you're night vision on these wee cameras, the pixelation is so bad on them, you see all shapes of wonderful objects and things moving about. But this seems to be, well, actually, I'll ask you first, and then I'll give you my opinion on it. So what do you think, Emma, looking at that? You've got young kids, so.
It actually never showed up for me.
Oh, did you not see it? Oh, right, sorry.
I'm telling you, there's definitely
Wow.
technical things.
Okay, Jared, did you see it?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you were. That's weird. Well, basically, Jared, when we come off here, I'll play it again for you, Emma, to see is it better. I think a Gremlins is working tonight on you in that house, definitely. That's really interesting. Jared, what's your opinion on it?
Well, it's pretty well known within the paranormal community that young children are more susceptible to spirit, right? And there's this theory of imaginary friends and whatnot. The fact that it is a nanny cam and it's in night vision, I'd probably be a bit more skeptical about it if it was something that was captured on normal camera in normal light, etc. But the fact that it is captured on a nanny cam in night vision, it's very, very hard to replicate that. And it seems to be a pretty clear figure going across the room. So
yeah. When you look at the child's reaction to now, there was a bit of a delay. Obviously, it's not exactly that moment when this whatever it is walks past, and it seems to be transparent. We can actually see through it as well. And of course, with ghost sightings over the years, and Jared, you and a few of the other guys in the ghost house in Uri seen something similar that were you able to see through it?
Absolutely,
it wasn't a solid mass.
No. The best way that I could explain it, and it was the first time that I had actually seen an apparition, 100%, not in peripheral vision, not for a fleeting glance, but actually for 10 to 15 seconds, and 5 of us saw exactly the same thing.
Same thing.
And the outline of it was lit up in green, which was the laser grid that was catching the outline of the figure. And everything in between it, everything in the middle, was like rippling water is the best way to explain it. But it was transparent, you know.
Yeah. And the thing was, it wasn't really dark. It was only starting to go dark at the time that you had seen it as well.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
You know.
No, that was. I think that was the time that kind of turned me to a skeptic. That a skeptic, ghosts don't really exist. To a skeptic, well, wait a minute here. There's something in this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, it's something that I can't explain, and even more so the fact that 4 other people seen it, and each one of us were taken separately and questioned as to what exactly was it that you saw.
That's right.
And
that's right.
We all saw exactly the same thing, and it wasn't for a fleet, and it wasn't peripheral vision. It wasn't. What was that? It was right in front of us, walking across, just literally like someone out for a casual stroll. It just strolled along the wall, took a left turn, strolled up the corridor towards the front door, and gone. You know?
Yeah.
So I
think that you discussed this now, actually, because last night I was actually filming my 3rd YouTube video, and I was in the main part of the house, and up the reception hallway I had my camera set up facing the blue room. People would have called it, we call it the sitting room.
Yeah.
Room.
Yeah.
And I was kind of walking into shot, and I went to kind of turn to walk back into the sitting room again, and I actually saw a really, really tall, large dark figure, and it was very thin, and it was standing so solid just in front of the TV, and there's a window right beside the TV, and I was able to see it, and I seen it for, I'd say, 2 seconds, and it wasn't like a peripheral vision. It was just right in front of me, and unfortunately you can't see that part, because you can just see me stopping on camera and looking. And it takes a wee minute to kind of, but I was like, okay. And I tried to kind of, you know, just keep going, because I was up in that part of the house on my own. And then I moved the camera then into the patio hallway, which is just beside the main staircase. And of course I was walking just beside the cellar, and I had the light beside me, and I actually caught this in camera, but I turned to kind of walk back, and I walk into the same figure. And you can see my reaction walking into the figure, but you can't see it on camera, but you can see my reaction. And it's funny now when I look back at it, but it wasn't funny at the time, because it was like it took my breath away. It felt like I was wounded. And I kind of stood back, and I kept my hands in my head, and I was like, I've had it with this house. You know, you just can't seem to do anything.
To digest it all, take it all in. Yeah.
Was this in the rectory? Was this in the rectory or your own home?
No, this is in the rectory. This is in the main part of the house, in the main
room. Yeah.
Say the blue room, but I actually have it in camera, and I'll put the snippet of the clip up on my Facebook page if anybody wants to see it. But it's my reaction. My reaction is quite funny, like, but you know, it's not made up. Like it literally happened. It was just I walked straight into it. Thought, I'm sick of this house.
It always happens.
I know what Gary's reaction would have been. And have you ever seen that superhero Flash?
Yeah.
Yeah, he goes from there to there, like.
You're right there, Mr. Hughes. You're right there.
I've always been like this all my life. No matter how many things I've seen, I rarely run. I would, like, you know, for me, I would stand my ground, as you say, Gary. It's like fight or flight, and I usually kind of stand there. And
well, fair play to you.
My body does kind of freeze, and I'm like, does my legs even work?
Yeah.
I mean,
it seems to be.
No, it's I would still run. I wouldn't stand. And
I know. I know you. You know.
Yeah, no, but there was one night, just very quickly. I had seen something similar in my own home. It was about 4 months ago. I was downstairs. Not a lot of people know this. I don't know if I've even said to you, Jared. And there's a couple of questions coming in here. We'll bring them up in a wee second from the public that's watching as well. I was down in the living room, and I was watching the television, and people know me who know me personally. I'm open-minded to everything to do with supernatural, and I had seen, not more my peripheral vision. This was full in front of me. I'd seen a part of a look like an outline of an arm. Now, Jared, when you brought up the ripple effect, that's exactly what I had seen. You could see the shape of the arm, and it moved from left to right of the television. And I'm sitting there, I'm going, what on earth was that? So I'm still trying to rationalize it to this day. And yeah, it's these things always seem to happen when you're least expecting it. And when it happens, wow, it really happens. And it does knock the stuffing out of you as well, like it did with you, with your reaction, which I'm looking forward to
Yeah.
seeing, by the way. That's going to be good to see as well.
Yeah.
Jared, a couple of questions coming in. Do you want to read out a couple of questions? Or?
From Natalie Fowler, Phelan. Will the Sharon Rectory be accepting paranormal teams in again anytime soon?
No, not that we know of just yet, because it's just last investigations that we've had, I felt like that we were living in the aftermath of it all. Because if it may have been a quiet night or an active night, if we had teams in, we're still living in that, so whenever everybody goes home, it's like it gets worse after. So it's my kids I'm thinking of too. I don't want to be kind of putting that in, putting them into that environment where it's really active. We do have times where it's quiet, but then we have times in where just like all hell breaks loose. But when
Yeah.
teams were in constantly every weekend, it was kind of like feeling it. And as you know yourself, you're going in and you're calling out, and that's the kind of stuff that brings that forward. So I don't see it. I don't see us ever doing investigations in the house. I just think that it's just too risky. It's not only that, I just wouldn't, I wouldn't chance anybody getting hurt, because we've had plenty of people that's came in and left with physical marks. I have all the evidence from it, and
Wow.
it's not safe.
When you say marks now, what are the marks exactly?
We've had actually members of teams that's actually came in, and even when it comes to saging at the end of the night, there was one guy got slapped in the face, and he had a really bright red mark the whole way around his eye, and his eye looked like it was going black on stage.
Wow.
There was another lady then, she left with a really, really bad bloodshot eye. We couldn't explain that. She didn't have it when she was coming to the house. It just seemed to happen
Yeah.
while she was in the house. Of course, the scratches where they come as one scratch or they come as 3 scratches.
Yeah. Strange. Strange.
People
That's a question to
actually
ask, Chris. Sorry.
Yeah, some people was actually leaving too and being affected in their own house. Where they're going home and they're having nightmares. They were hearing footsteps around their own house. So I don't know if it's the case that something followed them, or they got an attachment, or it's just things like that I would worry bringing anybody else into the house, because it just wouldn't be. It wouldn't be sensible for me to do that, to put anybody in that position. I wouldn't like. We done it
The
last
fair
year.
play to
We've
you.
seen how it turned out. I live with it every day.
Yeah.
It's my choice to live here as
Yeah.
well as my family's.
Yeah. Makes
But as I
sense.
say, like I just wouldn't want to wind things up.
Yeah.
Do you think then, just listening to that, Emma, that you've come to a point in your life now where you're accepting of it?
I am. I'm accepting for an extent. When it happens to my kids, I'm not accepting it. They've seen things themselves, but if it's a case where they're going to come up with physical marks, this is when I have to react. I have to try and really do something. It seems to be me and Victoria, my sister, that are really kind of targeted. My mum is quite a very spiritually strong person. You met her, Gary, she is quite, she's just very determined, and she will stand her ground with it, and she'll be like, that will not scare me out of my home. And my
Yeah.
dad would be the same. And my dad, he's a man that I would have never ever seen scared, he would walk around outside in the pitch dark, and it wouldn't even, he wouldn't I wouldn't be bothered, wouldn't bother him a bit. He would just carry on
Yeah.
with it. There's nights I did see him scared in the house, and whenever I see him scared, it's like, okay, now I need to panic, because he's kind of man in the house. You would think he would never be scared, so that's when
Yeah.
I kind of start to worry. But
Hmm.
as I said, whenever it's a case that my kids are being physically harmed, that's whenever I'm going to get angry. Then I'm going to be like, this is not acceptable. But
Yeah.
I would sooner be the one that takes the attacks. If it's me that's the target, I would sooner take the attacks than my kids.
Yeah. So when you were talking early on before the break of the Gary's Paranormal News Around the World, you were saying about you picked up on you think it's a demonic entity in the house. Is it because of the scratches that you think this is an evil spirit, or is there other things that's going on more sinister that you'd be happy to talk about?
It's other things that's went on that's more sinister. I write about it in my book. Sometimes it's quite hard to kind of openly kind of talk, especially in a chat room about it. It's different if it's just one-to-one. But last
Yeah.
November, we had an investigation in the house, and things had it really opened our eyes to what was there. My mum, trans medium, and she channeled something that night that confirmed that what we are dealing with is pure evil.
Right.
What was coming through, she was speaking in a different language. Now, my mum wouldn't even know how to speak Irish, yet no, she was speaking in different languages. It was just that there was a scream that she let out at one stage that I never ever would think my mum would even do. It was, she even admitted herself that the scream that she done, she's had 2 kids, she didn't even do it in labor. So it was something that I knew then that, okay, what we're dealing with here is pretty sinister. It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
That's when we pulled the plug on investigations in the house, and we hadn't had any in here since, because it was just, I didn't want to put my mum in that position again. I didn't want to put myself in that position again. It was just, it was the most scariest thing I've ever witnessed, ever.
Yeah. You do know, fair play to you, because you're actually the first person, I'm sure Judy will back me up here, that's actually ever done that. Because
Yeah.
a lot of people sees it as, making a lot of money from it and to continue
Surely.
doing it. But it's come to the point now that your family is more important than bringing in paranormal teams investigating your home, which has that
Of course.
after effect. Well, you've knocked that for 6, you stopped that immediately. So fair play to you for
Yeah.
doing that. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
Well
we've
done.
had it last year. We've had the teams in, and if it wasn't for the teams coming in, we would have never really kind of known what was really in the house. I think it
Yeah.
was the knowledge of different teams and just advice that people were giving us and the help and
Yeah.
stuff. You know,
Sometimes,
it was
my personal advice, Emma, sometimes you could have all the teams in the world coming into your home, but sometimes the best advice that you will learn is yourselves being in
Yeah.
that house, rather than people
Yes.
giving you, telling you what's going on there. The only people that's really going to know is you, because you're there 24/7, you know.
Yeah,
So I would
that's true.
take,
What we're just
yeah,
that's
because
we're,
law of averages, you're going to get people coming to you saying, "Oh, there's a demon in the cellar, or there's something in the attic," and you're probably thinking, "Well, I'm not sure about that," But the only people that really know what's going on is yourselves.
Yeah. Trust your gut.
Yeah,
Trust your gut. And hopefully now when Chris Mckinnell comes on now, as I say, he's a very, very knowledgeable guy, and he works with paranormal people involved in the paranormal field throughout the world. Do you know what I mean? And hopefully he'll be able to give you some sort of information or some sort of guidance as to where to go from there. And how are you about it? How are you about it today, Emma? Are you a lot calmer about it now? Are are you still frightened to go into the house, or?
No, I go into the main house. It's funny because sometimes I would be going into the house on my own. There'd be nobody in the house, and I just there'd be things I keep over in the attic in the main house, and I would be going over there. And if I was to go up myself, there is times I kind of feel like I don't know if I'll walk into that room. I'll go up maybe the other way instead, because there's a large dining room, and sometimes I feel kind of I have to. It's like hitting a brick wall going into that door, because you feel like there's something that's in here that I just maybe could avoid right now, so I'll go around maybe the longer way. So it's just things like that gets me for the odd time. I'm not saying that it's every day. There's days I'm fine. I could walk in through the house and it could be fine.
Yeah.
And then there's days then it's a bit heavier than other days. But as I
It's
say,
like the
I
weather.
use
It's
both.
like the weather.
You know, we had a building in Belfast, Emma, and it felt exactly the same way. I'm sure you'll agree with it, Gary. The old Queen Street police station, but it was originally the old children's hospital, the original children's hospital in Belfast. And you know, you go back to 1876. You know, and a lot of children and whatnot were dying of consumption. It was actually a poor person's hospital. But when you walked in, you know, it was fine. It was fine if you walked into that building with a group of people. But see, if you walked into that people on your own, see, the second you walked through the front door, you just felt the oppression.
Panic.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the only place that ever. Yeah, it was the only place that ever gave me the heebie-jeebies, and I've been in a lot of buildings, not only here but around the world as well. And Queen Street is just one of those buildings you just walk in, you want to turn and walk back out again.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have police officers, when it was a police station, when you have police officers coming telling you firsthand of their experiences, then you have to take on board what they're saying is real, you know. Jared, actually, you should maybe write a book on that. That would be a really, really good thing, a story to write on, you know, something to do with Queen Street.
Queen Street Police Station. I mean, we had many experiences in there, and again, you know, some of them absolutely unexplainable. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
myself and Gary did a couple of
You're trying to
all-nighters in it.
explain to and people don't get it unless you witness it yourself. People will never get it, because it's like, you know, it's just a scary story to them. Do you know? Until they witness it themselves.
That's the unfortunate thing about the paranormal field today, right? You know, if someone captures something on camera, or someone captures an EVP or whatever, right? Unless you're actually there, you're always going to get that one person who's going to say, yeah, but it could have been. Yeah, it could have been. It could have been somebody dropping buckets of pound coins down from heaven, but it wasn't. I was there. I seen it. I witnessed it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, Sharon Rector, it's a place now definitely that it's. But I noticed you also say that, you know, and it really did sort of hit home with me, right? Yeah, it's a quote from your book, right, where you say, to constantly live in fear of the unseen is a curse, but to overcome those challenges together is a blessing. And that really hit home with me, you know. You're talking about the family group there.
It's just because there's so many people that says to us, why do you not move out of the house? Just move out. But my mum and dad put so much effort, blood, sweat and tears. My grandfather, my late grandfather, he worked in the house. He built the house up to what it is today.
Yeah,
and for people to turn around and say, you know, just leave the house. It's, you know, they don't understand, because it's home. You know, it's our home. Like, you just don't get up and walk away.
Yeah.
People be thinking, you know, why would you stick around if you're being scared? But this is why we want to try and overcome all this as family.
You're trying to balance it out, really, aren't you? You want to find, you know, you want, suppose you want to get on with your own lives, but it's always in the background. You always worried about it. Is it going to start? Is it going to happen again? You know, have you ever tried calling out in the house yourselves, tell them, look, this is your home. You know, you don't mind them living there, but, you know, give us our privacy and we'll give you yours. Have you ever tried that?
Oh, we have many times, but as you know yourself, like, you know, if you're trying to talk to a negative energy, that's just kind of just going to be like, okay, well, we're not going to be doing that. You know, it's different for the spirits that's good spirits there. We have no problem with them. We have no issues with them. We know if we see the blue lady, Mrs. Waller, you know, walking from one room to the next, we know she's not going to harm us, because she's never been a malevolent spirit. She's never been a spirit that, we were threatened by. We were scared when we seen her, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but it was a feeling that you got off her that she was negative. Even my dad has on numerous occasions seen a man dressed all in black. We reckon that that's probably Reverend Hamilton. We reckon that he probably still was walking the grounds or the property, like, so he's seen him, and he says that he never ever felt a kind of a threat by him neither. So
Yeah.
there's
Mm.
of Barney who wanders around outside. I've seen him numerous times. Other people
Yeah.
have seen him. Even
Mm.
Victoria's friends that come to the house see this man that be standing
Yeah.
outside, and
It's
strange
strange
looking man.
because one of the questions that's coming in here, it says, do you know what was there before the house or anything old or ancient within the surrounding areas?
That's one thing I don't know, because the house is over 240 years old. I
Yeah.
honestly don't really know what's on the property.
Yeah.
I know the
When,
Lost Valley came very close up past, where the house was. So
yeah.
possibly
I mean,
forest or anything.
yeah, I mean, when I was there, I got the impression, and the only time I ever felt that before was it's a house called the Conneen house. It's more down centre of Ireland, Northern Ireland, and it's a famous story where this family back in the early 1900s fled the home with their clothes in their back, and they said they were being terrorized basically by this unforeseen force, where they got a priest in to try to bless it, but it probably made it worse to the point where they moved out, never returned. And I think there was a book actually was written about it as well. It's been on a paranormal TV show in Northern Ireland as well. But when I was there, I think it's all knocked down now, and it was in the forest. And I think Warren, I think you're in the chat there as well, and we've talked about this, where we actually think there's something going on within the grounds that could be attached to the house. Could be something maybe connected with Sharon Rackley, that that your dad is seeing something on the grounds as well, and that could have a connection with that, if you know what I mean.
It definitely does, like, and that's probably where the elementals kind of coming from. Like, it's
Yeah.
very, very hard to. I try to do research on elementals, and it's very difficult to try and get, because they're very rare hauntings. But I think that there's some kind of things of what I found on elemental hauntings that we can relate to. So this is it's a possibility of what it could be. But it could be maybe something that it's an elemental, and then there could be maybe a demonic entity that's on the property, and they're together. As to say, like, we don't know.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier on, Emma, there was a connection to the United Irishmen.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, that period alone was a very bloody period.
Yes. Yeah. It was. I suppose with that too, that was kind of the main. It was all linking around to the history there. Of that's, I think, whatever is malevolent, whatever is negative in the house, I think that was fueled by all that bloody violence back then, like, and the fear and everything that occurred that night on the 2nd of March, when the murders took place. Like, the way Reverend Hamilton was murdered has bound to have left an imprint. There's no doubt about that. Like, it was pretty vile. I describe the way it kind of happened in the book, and there has been a lot of evidence over it. There's been a lot of books wrote. There's been just everything is about William Hamilton, because he was quite well known. So obviously there's a lot of information out there about him. So this was well documented.
Yeah.
Well, it's coming up to near 9 o'clock. So you mentioned the haunting of Sharon Rackley. Where exactly can you get this book?
It's available on Kindle to download, and on Amazon then to buy as paperback. It's also available a few shops in Donegal too, like in Letterkenny, and it's available in Derry too, in Little Acorns bookstore. I'm hoping to get it into more bookstores over the coming months. So obviously with the lockdown, everything kind of put the brakes on it, for me trying to get it into more shops. But I'm hoping over the next few months I'll be able to kind of get it into more bookstores.
Oh, brilliant. Well, there you go. It's been a fascinating talk with you, Emma. I really, really enjoyed it, and hopefully we'll maybe get you on the show at some other time. You've experienced so much, you've gone through so much, and maybe where you are today, maybe your family won in the end. You've took that step where you're not going to be beaten. You're going to stand up to whatever's going on in this house, and it's your home. Let them know that, as well. So what we'll try to do later on, Emma, if we get a break in between, we will bring you on. If you're happy to come on about 9:30, if you can stay in the background, we'll be happy to do that. If you're happy to come on again to talk to Chris about it.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll stay in the background anyway, and you can bring me in again.
Okay. All right, that's brilliant. Well, sure, we'll talk to you very, very soon then.
What I'm actually going to do here, Emma, is I'm going to put a link up here now. For anybody who maybe wants to copy the link to the book, and let me see, here we go. So that's the link, just scrolling along the bottom, folks. So anybody who wants to copy that link down, that's where you can find a copy of the book, and it's a very, very interesting read. And hopefully when our next guest comes on here, Emma, you maybe get some answers. As I say, he is a very, very knowledgeable guy,
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what it says.
So there we go. There we go. Our next guest seems to be...
He's not there. He's not on yet.
I think he may have the walls of the Sharon Rectory. What do you think?
I think maybe talking about these ghosts to scare them off. A couple of questions that's coming in here. The canine is amazing, and I did pick up on energies in the wooded area when I was there. I heard a lady's voice in the cottage and had a few things happen. Not negative at all. When we were there, I don't know actually who this is from. It's just coming up as a Facebook user, so apologize. When we were there, again, Warren, Warren's actually saying that the forest is worse than the house, and again we're going back to what's on the grounds of the property. Is it connected with the house, or same with Sharon Rectory as well? And then Kate is saying the Cunnian house has a different effect from Sharon Rectory. Its path is a separate demonic entity which would not connect with Sharon Rectory. I have investigated both houses and can find no connection with both. Oh, so there you go. Anyway, Emma, we will give you a shout in about half an hour or so.
Perfect. Thank you.
It's lovely talking. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you very much.
Okay. It was lovely speaking to you.
We'll talk to you soon. All right, Emma. Thanks now. Bye. So there you go, folks. That is I'll just remove Emma there a wee second. So we have Jared. This is your part of the show. Just take this off a wee second. So guys, any more questions, please, if you could leave them in the chat room, we're happy to bring them up onto the screen as well. This isn't just about us, it's a people's show. It's about you guys, and obviously we are learning a lot from what our guests are telling us as well. And if Chris can help in any way with them, and that's going to be really interesting, Jared. Good idea. Really good idea. So it is. Anyway, this is your part. This is your segment.
This is my part.
This is your part.
I even get my own jingle.
Yeah, I was getting into that.
Well, our next guest this evening is a gentleman by the name of Chris Mckinnell, and he is the founder of the Warren Legacy Foundation for Paranormal Research Worldwide. And we'll just bring Chris into the studio now. Hello, Chris. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing this evening, gentlemen?
We're doing very, very well here. We're doing very, very well. Just before we actually go into it, Chris, we have, and I hope you don't mind, we have invited the previous guest that was, we've just been chatting to her, a girl called Emma Louise from the Sharon Rectory. And there are major hauntings going on there, and they can't get to the bottom of it. And I kind of invited her back on again, probably maybe in about 15 minutes or so. because she's seeking she's seeking help or what way to approach this or whatever. And this is something that's been going on for years now, you know. And we kind of thought that, you know, maybe you were the guy that maybe could point her in the right direction or give her a few pointers.
I'd be happy to.
Yeah, so hope you don't mind. So anyway, Chris, for those viewers that are watching now who don't know about the Warren Foundation, you want to give us a bit of background on it?
Sure. Well, we continue the work of my grandparents, Ed and Lorraine Warren, which most people know of through The Conjuring or the Annabelle movies and all those other movies. We realized once the movies had come out that our reach was now global, and it wasn't just a regional concern any longer. So I talked to my grandmother about it, and I wanted to make sure that her name and my grandfather's name lived on. Mm-hmm. It was important to me. And the New England Society for Psychic Research, which is what they started, it's wonderful. And I'm, you know, I've been with it my whole life, but it's New England, and it's not as well known. The Warren name carries some weight. And I thought we need to use that for two reasons. We need to keep their memory alive, and we want to be able to reach more people to help more people. Today, we are a worldwide network. We're not quite everywhere yet, but we're working on it. We've got a couple of hundred good people all around the world from all different backgrounds, all different professions, doctors, priests, bankers, mediums, and psychologists, and you name it. If they can help with people who are having problems with paranormal, that's what we want. We don't charge anything for our services. We never have, never will. My grandparents never did. For me, it's the ministry, and I continue their work.
Well, I suppose one of the, you know, go back to your grandparents. I suppose one of the most famous hauntings would be 112 Ocean Avenue, the Amityville house.
Right.
A
little before my time. I was 12.
You were 12.
Yeah.
Oh, I wasn't even born then.
Jared, no,
okay.
Jared, I think you were about 30 then.
No, I think so. Yeah.
It was 76, 77.
That's what it was, 19, right?
What can you tell us about that? I mean, what sort of effect did that have on family life, etc.? And you know, because it is pretty prolific, and you know what went on in that house is pretty horrific.
It certainly is. As a matter of fact, I just did a program where I talked about it on the Warren Files, which is my own program, but and that's on the Spirit Realm Network. But they were affected from the moment they were asked to go into that case. This was a really, really bad case. I know all the people talk about it being fake and everything. The truth is, George and Kathy Lutz had a lot of problems before they moved into that house. He was a biker. They were a melded family. They were under a lot of stress, and they really put themselves all the way out there to be able to afford this home. They got it at a steal because, you know, there had just been an entire family murdered there. But it was still, for them, a working class family in Amityville, Long Island, that was a huge expense. Mm-hmm. And they didn't last more than 30 days. They were out of there within a month. Mm-hmm. And my grandparents were contacted by Channel 5 News in New York City, and they were asked to figure out whether or not this home was a haunted house, if there were any ghosts in it. And so they went in there, and, well, let me back up. The night they said, yeah, we can do that, at 3 o'clock in the morning, my grandfather was down in his museum, in his office in the back room, and my grandmother was upstairs reading a biography on Padre Pio.
Yeah.
And my grandfather heard the door to the corridor open. It's like a big dungeon door. Mm-hmm. And he heard 3 footsteps, and he assumed it was my grandmother coming to him with some coffee. It was middle of the night. And he said, Lorraine, I'm back here. Come on in. And then he realized he wasn't hearing any more footsteps. And it got so cold, he could see his breath in the room. And the lights started flickering, and he knew there was something going on. So he picked up his holy water, he picked up his cross, and as he was entering the main museum room, the door to the corridor flung open, because there's two doors, one at either end of the corridor, and it flung open, and this whirlwind just came in, swirling around. It came around to the other side of the museum room and over by Annabelle. And it started to materialize. My grandfather knew he had to do something quickly, and he took a few steps forward. He flung the holy water in the form of the cross at it, and he said, by the power of Jesus Christ, I command you to be gone. And he could see it was getting more powerful. Mm-hmm. He then took another step forward, brandishing his cross, and he threw more holy water at it. He heard these noises like animals screaming and screeching outside, but there were no real animals out there. Then this thing swirled around and it went down the corridor. And my grandfather's immediate concern was, oh my God, Lorraine. And he knew he couldn't go down that corridor. The last thing you want to do is go into an enclosed area with that kind of energy, especially something that's manifested that strongly. So he went out the back door and outside to climb up the back stairs to get into the kitchen and then into the house.
Yeah.
At the same time, my grandmother was with the dogs in bed, and all of a sudden the dogs started whimpering and just cowering. And she could feel that something was coming, and she heard it like a freight train coming up, and it swirled up the stairs, swirled around the kitchen, down into the living room. She said it felt like something was searching for her. Now, I know it knew exactly where she was, and I'm sure she really knew that as well. But then it came into the room, and it started to manifest this black form. And she was terrified. She froze at first, and then she got up on her knees on the bed, and also, by the power of Jesus Christ, I command you to be gone. It swirled around as my grandfather was coming through the back door of the kitchen. And it swirled around, went out the bedroom door, through the living room, and then straight up the fireplace chimney. That's when they knew they were going to get themselves into quite a case.
Yeah.
When they went into the Amityville home, they were confronted by quite a lot of things. First, they did a seance with two other mediums. That didn't go very well. But that's when they decided Ed was going to go down in the basement. My grandmother was going to go up the stairs, and they both had cameramen with them. And as my grandmother was going up the stairs, she said it felt as though she was walking against running water, pushing against her. And she made it up the stairs, and there's a very famous photo of it looks like a child looking out of the bedroom window, or the bedroom door.
This one?
That's the one, yeah. And by the way, that is not a ghost. That is not the child that was killed. It's meant to look like the child who was killed, but it isn't. That is a demon. It's not a term I like to use very often because what I've discovered in my work around the world is they manifest differently throughout the world. These inhuman spirits. I prefer to call them inhuman spirits.
Yeah.
But my grandparents call them demons. And they didn't see this at first. Now, another very famous photo, my grandfather was downstairs in, I assume it's the family room, and there's a big moose on the wall. And in the moose's antlers, you can see Padre Pio looking down at my grandmother. Mm-hmm. It's extraordinary. There's also, at the tip of one of the other antlers on the moose, it looks exactly like Ronald DeFeo, the young man who had killed his entire family a year earlier.
Yeah.
While all this was going on, my grandfather was downstairs in the basement. He said it felt like a wet blanket had been thrown over him and he was forced to his knees by the pressure. Now, my grandfather was not psychic in the least. I mean, totally oblivious to psychic phenomena, except when it became physical like this.
Mm-hmm.
And this knocked him down. They did discover that there was this sealed cubbyhole room, and inside of it, there were these, what they called satanic sigils or satanic symbols all over it, written on the floor, and they found animal bones in there. So somebody had been practicing some kind of dark arts there.
Yeah.
My grandmother did say it was the closest to hell that she hoped she ever gets.
Yeah. This photograph you were talking about, Chris, is it, would you be able to see that on the internet? Is that available to view?
Oh yeah, I'll share it with you.
Would you? I'm sure there's a lot of, even myself and Jared would love to see that photograph. It's a photograph I've never heard of before, so yeah, I'd love to see that. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So, so how close to, obviously, well, Hollywood obviously likes to spice things up doing the movies, etc. But how far off the truth was that actual film? Was it way off, or was it close to the truth, or
the Amityville Horror?
The Amityville Horror, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I have to assume it was pretty far off. I can't say for certain. I thought the movie was great. If you want to talk about movies that I think were very realistic, The Exorcist, the original Exorcist, very realistic.
Okay. So you've actually, obviously, you've been an exorcist. You've came across these entities in the past over so many years, and you mentioned The Exorcist. Is that how close to what you've actually seen? Is it as horrific as that?
That's a little over the top, a little bit, but one of the more famous cases. I don't drop names unless these cases are already public, and Maurice Theriault is a very famous case that I was involved with. I was not the exorcist, but I was there. I was there with Bishop Mckinnell, who did perform the exorcism. My grandparents were also there. My grandfather was actually having a heart attack during that exorcism. And he was drooling blood. He was crying blood. His forehead opened up. His skin took on a scaly appearance. His eyes took on like a slit snake look to them.
Yeah.
What's very interesting, yes, the blood drooling and the blood coming from the eyes, we could all see that. But the other phenomena only showed up on video. It was manifesting psychically onto film. It was not physical. His forehead never opened up physically, and his skin didn't take on that appearance.
Yeah.
So it was fascinating. And this was long before CGI. This was back in 84, I believe. 83 or 84.
Yeah.
No, I take back 84, 85.
And there's some very, very famous exorcisms there, and suppose that I'm real, sort of fascinated in Chris. I mean, for example, the exorcism of Emily Rose, and I know that the media has a tendency to overemphasize, let's just say, right, or be liberal with the truth, right? But I suppose at the end of the day, a lot of our viewers will be interested in, what is an actual exorcism like to experience from your own personal experiences?
First thing you need to understand is they're incredibly rare. Possession is incredibly rare. 99.9 times out of 100, you're looking at either mental illness, or in 5% of the cases, there's paranormal. But even there, the worst you deal with is oppression, where the entity is forcing its will on you, but you still have some free will.
Yeah.
It is rare that it becomes full-blown oppression. I did deal with a case last year. and unfortunately, the Catholic Church got involved, which should have been a good thing. The man was Hispanic. He was a strong believer in the Catholic Church, and we always work with whatever faith the family professes.
Yeah.
It's much more effective. And the church agreed, yes, this man's under possession. He was coming under possession unbelievable numbers of times. Even in an hour conversation with me, he would come under possession for a few seconds, and then he would be gone. And this would happen 25, 30 times. I mean, it was amazing, the rapid fire possessions.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the church didn't move fast enough. And one night his wife came home and he was under possession, and he said an expletive and said, "I'm just going to kill him." And he ran up the stairs. He had a power cord already, and it was shaped in a noose, and he jumped off the balcony and he killed himself.
Oh dear.
When the emergency medical technicians came and the police, he came back, his body animated, and he sat up again. He looked at the EMT, the emergency medical technician, and his eyes were completely black. He said something to her, I don't know what. And then he went back down. He had been dead the whole time.
Yeah.
And this,
Wow.
a couple of cops have already quit because of this. They just couldn't deal with what they had witnessed.
It's hard to even comprehend what sort of a mental or physical effect that would have on the exorcist or whoever is performing the exorcist. I mean, that must be very, very profound.
I've been raised with this work. It's something I've always had in my life. As a child, I was terrified of the dark. But by the time I was 16 years old, I went on my first case, and it was a Hollywood-style poltergeist case.
Yeah.
I mean, things were flying around, banging noises on the wall that shook the walls, lights going on and off. The woman was clawed. 2 hulking black shapes came down the stairs, and after I got out of the recliner I was in, it flipped over and followed me across the room.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was my introduction to the paranormal.
Yeah.
So after that, I was never afraid of the dark again. I was never afraid of much of anything.
Yeah.
It was burned out.
Just on that, Chris, I think it was a recent interview with yourself. You had said that your grandfather took you on your first case when you were 16, 38 years ago.
40 now.
40 now. And
This summer. Next month.
It was hellacious. You want to tell us about that?
Excuse me.
Would you like to tell us about that?
Well, I kind of just did. But what had happened was my grandma.
This is the one that you were referring to. That was your very first case.
Yes, it was.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
we were on a radio program all night long. Brian Dow, WTIC, out of Hartford, Connecticut. So they experienced what we were experiencing live. It was an extraordinary night. It went on from the moment we arrived. The husband and wife wouldn't come in the house without us. They waited outside. And when we went in, the banging noises were so loud that as we walked up the stairs, the wall was shaking. And we could hear growling and clawing inside the walls. I mean, we're not talking rats. We're talking like werewolf kind of sounds.
Yeah.
And at the top of the stairs, I looked in the bathroom, and the crucifix was upside down. I mean, it was cliche. The pull down stairs to the attic had been pulled down. On one night before I had arrived, the woman had been home alone with her kids. The husband worked overnight at the local mill. And this black cowled figure came into the room, picked up her rosary beads, and twirled them in his hand as if to say, "You think these are going to stop me?" As she got up and tried to run out of the bedroom, the stairs came down on her head and knocked her out.
Yeah.
When she got up, she tried to get to her children, and the doors wouldn't unlock. There were no locks on these doors to the kids' rooms, but they were not able to be opened.
Yeah.
And then they opened, she got out, and that was the end of that night. What's interesting about this case, and this is true with most cases, unfortunately, I mean, when they get to this point, they start out innocently. They start out like Annabelle did, where something presents itself as an innocent child. And so what happens is you create an emotional connection with that spirit. You feel bad for that spirit. In the case in Lee, Massachusetts, my first case, it was a little boy appearing. And the little boy said that he had been the twin brother of the husband's uncle, who had been pushed out of the coach as a child and under the wheels and killed.
Yeah, yeah.
So this couple were very, very caring and of course wanted to help the child. They called in their priest, and the priest did an exorcism, and the child was gone. But that's when that black figure appeared. They provoked it, and they then had to deal with that problem. And that's why we got called in.
So it's like basically when there's an evil entity trying to communicate with you, it's almost like it's trying to groom you.
Exactly. Yeah, it's trying to trick you so that you'll create a stronger attachment, so it can then basically psychically feed off of you.
Yeah.
It turns dark and it turns violent and negative because it's trying to get you to give off negative vibrations, negative energy like depression, anger, hatred, fear, because it feeds off of that. It helps it to manifest so it can then grow stronger and then do even more to you. One thing I tell all of my clients, always assume that what you're dealing with is natural. Even if you're in a haunted house, assume, unless the evidence is overwhelming, assume that it's only something like a squirrel. Because you don't want to keep giving energy to this entity. That's what it wants. It primes the pump by giving off a little of its own energy, terrifying you, and then you start to think every single thing that happens around you is caused by the paranormal, and it isn't.
Makes sense.
I mean, going back to the term demons, Chris, right? I mean, people talk about angels, and people talk about demons, and people talk about heaven, and people talk about hell. Some people believe that heaven exists. Some people believe that it doesn't exist. And likewise with hell, right? Speaking to someone who is a demonologist, right, and who has made his life studying this, how can you best explain what a demon is?
Okay. Well, I've been pretty blessed in my life. I've lived on 5 continents, over a dozen countries, and traveled to many, many more. And I've done investigations everywhere, from West Africa to East Africa to the Middle East and all over Asia, as well as, of course, Europe. And now I'm in South America doing the same work. I can tell you that you will never have a Christian demon haunting a Hindu family, for instance.
Right.
They don't manifest that way. They manifest according to the beliefs of the area that they're in, or the belief of the family that they're attacking.
Okay.
So we influence how the paranormal will manifest itself. For instance, you had mentioned the exorcism of Emily Rose, which is based on a true case of Anneliese Mitchell, which was in the 1970s in Germany. Now, Anneliese felt that she was under possession from Hitler, Nero, I believe it was Nero, and maybe Beelzebub. I know one of them was a typical Christian demon, but the others were Hitler and I believe Nero. And for her culture, that makes perfect sense. Those are the epitome of evil.
Yeah.
So I don't believe that demons have names. I think that it's a waste of time trying to learn all of the history of Asmodeus and Beelzebub and Baal and all the rest, because we named them. These things are energy.
Yeah.
These things are intelligent. But we, for instance, went into ancient Sumer and we took their gods and we demonized them.
Yeah.
And we've done that throughout history. That's the Christian way.
Yeah.
So what is a demon? I don't know. I know it's not human. I know what it's not. And I also know what works. It's not human. It has never lived on Earth. A human spirit can never become a demon. They can become powerful. They can cause a lot of harm, but they're not demonic. But there are also other inhuman spirits, some that we call angels. And then there are others that are elementals. And then we have other things like poltergeists. And a poltergeist can be anything from an actual human living person who has tapped into energy and is now manifesting their own problems. And that's very typical for people who are kids going through puberty, people who have autism, people with mental illness, people who are suffering from anxiety. If they are psychic, or if they are living in a home with a haunting, they can grab onto that energy subconsciously and manifest it. And they can start fires with their minds. I was in a home in Tewksbury, Massachusetts, and 2 years earlier, the same day we did the exorcism on Maurice Theriault, we also were in Tewksbury with Bishop Mckinnell, and we did a house cleansing for this poltergeist case. 2 years later, nothing has been going on. Everything's been fine. And I go there to visit the family with a gentleman that I was working with at the time. And they said, well, why don't you spend the night? Okay, thank you. And they let us have one of the kids' beds. And we're in our sleeping bags. And the boy is on the other side of the room, sleeping in a sleeping bag on the floor, pissed off because we've taken his bed, of course. And we've turned off the light. And I was with my cousin, John, and he starts complaining that I'm kicking the bed. I said, John, I'm still in my sleeping bag. I'm not kicking the bed. I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
And so we turn off the light again. And he says, stop kicking the bed. And as he says that, the bed picked up, flew across the room, smashed down, and broke into pieces. There was no spirit there anymore. That home was hooked into a great deal of energy, and that boy was really pissed off.
Yeah.
It was him causing that damage.
No.
Well,
That's
crazy. Chris, we just have, I spoke to you at the beginning of the show about Emma Louise, and she has wrote a book called The Haunting of Sharon Rectory, right? Now, basically, that haunting is about her own family and her own living in the rectory, right? And she has tried everywhere. She's tried everyone to try and find out what it is that's going on with the house, how best to deal with whatever it is that's going on with the house. So, if you don't mind, I'd like to bring her into the studio now to have a chat with you.
As long as she doesn't mind, that's fine. I don't like to work on cases in public unless the person is okay with it.
Yeah, no, we asked her early on, and she's happy with it. Yeah,
we asked her earlier on, and she's quite happy. You know, well, I mean, it'll be up to Emma how much information that she wants to give. Do you know what I mean? We certainly won't,
of course,
give any. So I'll just bring her in just now. Just 1 second, just. Hello, welcome back, Emma. This is Chris Mckinnell. Chris is the grandson of the Warrens. So if you want to just have a chat with Chris there, you may have to speak up a bit, Emma, because like before, your mic's very low and it's hard to hear you.
Yes, yeah. I apologize. Hi, Emma. How are you today?
Hi, Chris. I'm good. I'm good. All good.
Good. Are you in this rectory right now?
Not at the minute. I'm in the gatehouse. Is just at the outside of the rectory. It's still on
That's
the
good.
grounds. But I've been listening to you. And I can relate to a lot. I've actually wrote down a few things here when you were mentioning about the walls shaking. We actually had that happen here in the rectory. Now, as you can imagine, it's quite an old building, and it's big stone walls. Gary will even tell you himself the walls are quite thick. About
Hmm.
3 or
It
4
is.
years ago,
Hmm.
um, at Christmas time. It was actually Christmas night 3 or 4 years ago. Um, my mum and dad witnessed the whole house shake. We were in the gatehouse at the time, but it was the next day, Boxing Day, whenever we were sitting around having dinner, and mum and dad happened to say, "God, there was a wild earthquake last night. The whole walls, everything shook." And we all looked at each other. We were like, we didn't feel anything. And it was, to them then it was like, okay, now this is quite weird. But I did try and look up to see if there was any earthquakes, any natural kind of phenomena to cause such a shake to a house like this. And we've never had earthquakes here. Like I've never, from my 30 years, witnessed an earthquake here, even at that strong, to shake a house that size. But I can relate to that, as you say, about the shaken walls. Also, the oppression. We've both myself, my sister, and my father have felt this oppression. I myself have been put in a position in one part of the house where I was living at the time, which I quite find is very heavy. Whenever I was living there, I felt my personality changing. I actually
Mm-hmm.
felt depressed. I felt sick, fatigue all the time, constant sickness and fatigue. There was days I lay in bed all day, and my mum would have to be, knocking on the door trying to get me up, and I physically couldn't find the strength to get up. It was actually turning to a point where I was getting angry with her, because I was like, just leave me alone, let me be in my own space. I do believe that whatever was in that part of the house was actually feeding off the energy, feeding off them bad thoughts that I've been having. And it was kind of manipulating me. I
Yes,
do write about
absolutely.
it in my book. I kind of go into more detail in the book of what I was experiencing. Sometimes it's just very hard to kind of openly talk about it, but I was suicidal. And that's kind of one thing that I will say. I was suicidal. I attempted it. Um, I kind of go into more details of how I done that in the book. But
Hmm.
that was quite difficult. My father has witnessed or been like this too, where he's been very, very badly depressed. And it's just, we do find that we do go through stages where we're like this, where we feel fine when we're out of the house, and you come into the house and you do feel really down, and you can't explain it. And it's like,
Yes.
the way it's like the house has control over you. The house kind of controls how you're feeling from day to day. Whenever it's quiet, you could be fine and you could be feeling positive. Whenever activity starts to kind of speed up a bit and start to kind of get more kind of stronger, you can start feeling your energy kind of just being sucked from you. You could be so tired, but you can't sleep through the night.
Hmm.
You're waking up all night. We all witness this. We've all gone through this. My sister, she would be going through this too, where she'd be very depressed in times, and the next week she could be totally fine. And it's really, we can't explain what we're going on, what's going on, because I managed to break away from the house at one stage. I was living somewhere else, and when I lived somewhere else, I felt fine. It was like I was normal. I felt like, is this what it's like to have a normal life without paranormal, without ghosts? And it was crazy how it happened, but I managed to end up back here, and I've been here ever since. And as I said before, I feel like that the house kind of always manages to drag you back, drag to pull you back in again. We've had many people even visit the house and felt like that they've left and had unfinished business and wanted to come back, and we're trying to say, no, try not to come back. If you can avoid it, try not to. But it's like it's pulling them back in again, because it wants that kind of, that attention from them that it was receiving whenever they were here. So it's things like that, that I can relate to, that you're talking about there.
Okay. There's a lot there. There's definitely a lot there, and there's a lot more I need to ask you.
Yes.
First off, I would like to know more privately, because I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
this will take a long time.
Yeah.
But I'd like to know the history of the home. How long has it been there? What happened there? Has this always been a problem for you since the day you moved in?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
and it's even from when the house burnt. The local people would have came up and would have had experiences in the house. So it's going long before us. People who previous families lived in the house, some had experiences, some didn't. I suppose it depends how open you are to it. All my family's quite sensitive. All of us.
That was my next question.
People. Yeah. So, my mom's trans medium. I would be very.
She doesn't do the work in the
sensitive.
house, does she?
No. Well, we tried to avoid that. No, we did do investigations last year, which kind of was stopped. We had to stop that because, as I said to Gary and Jared before, I wouldn't bring anybody else back into that situation. But it wasn't until last year we realized how bad the thing we were dealing with was in the house, and it was all down to what she channeled that night.
Yes, you opened the door even greater. Yeah.
Yes,
the door got open,
so
and you created a stronger attachment. When you were away, the fact that it didn't keep bothering you means that the attachment's not actually on you, or was not on you at that time.
Yes.
But the fact that your mother is that open and you also are sensitive, yeah, that's definitely why it's latching onto you. Because for a psychic, your aura burns much more brightly in their darkness than an ordinary person's. You're like a lighthouse for them, and they will latch onto you.
Sign above your head. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They will latch onto you. If we're dealing with something human and not inhuman, then it's a little harder to get rid of. It can be very afraid. It could be mentally ill. It could be very vindictive. But no matter what it is, it has free will. And that means it is much harder to get rid of than an inhuman spirit. An inhuman spirit has to follow the rules. You know, when you bring God in, when you force that in there, then the dark thing has to escape. Because if you think of God as, and by the way, I can't remember which of you gentlemen had said it earlier about hell. If you think of God as like the sun, then we are all trying to get closer and closer to God, and as close to that light as we can get. But there are some souls that are so black that they can't get close, and they separate themselves from God. And for them, that is hell, a separation from God. I know that's not exactly what's written in the Bible, but that's my experience. I would, I assume your home is in Ireland, right?
Yes, my home's in Ireland.
Okay. I am trying to get to Ireland. I'm trying to get to Ireland either this winter or this spring coming up. That's if they'll let me in the country. Right now I'm in Brazil. And God knows, I wouldn't blame anybody for keeping anybody from Brazil out of your country right now. It's a mess.
It's all over the news here. It's all over the news. Really bad.
Yeah, I went from one frying pan and right into the fire.
Yeah.
United States to Brazil.
Brazil, yeah.
But I'm trying. But what I would suggest,
about the children too, a child spirit. We've all witnessed this child spirit in the house too, and it was actually my sister, my younger sister. She used to grow up with a child spirit named Sorshi. Now we didn't know anybody the name of Sorsha or Sorshi, but she used to always talk about this little girl, and it was like we thought it was an imaginary friend at one stage, even though we knew that the house was haunted and everything, but we've never witnessed this child spirit before. And it was whenever she was born, the spirit kind of seemed to, I don't know, attach to her, or kind of, want to kind of, associate with her or kind of just, communicate with Victoria. But when we seen her, we couldn't see it at that stage. But when we seen her kind of later on down the line, then my mum seen her too. My mum actually was lying in bed one night, and she woke up, she could feel something hitting her legs, and she seen a young girl standing above her, and she says that she was like grey in color, and she had long black hair, and she was in like a dirty kind of old dressing gown or nightgown, and she says that she was doing cartwheels on her legs, and she could physically feel her hitting off her legs. And she says that she was trying to speak to her, but mum couldn't get her words out. It was like whoa, whoa, whoa. She couldn't physically get the words out. And we all thought it was maybe this child Sorshi. But whenever we were having investigations last year, we had a few teams in. We did actually, there was a few members and teams did witness this child. It wasn't even, there was this child has been seen without investigations. There's been visitors we've had in the house that's actually seen a child walking up the stairs, but we didn't have any children in the house at the time. And when we told them that there was no children, they kind of panic a bit and they think, well, I definitely saw a child walking up the stairs. I can't help but think, I wonder, is it something to do with this malevolent spirit, as you say, is it trying to groom you, trying to kind of make you feel sorry for it, trying to you bring that child in closer to kind of.
You want to first please contact me through the Warren Legacy Foundation on Facebook, or you can do it through warrenlegacyfoundation@gmail.com.
We'll send you the link, Emma.
Okay. And I'll send you our questionnaire. We'll have an intake person go through it with you, or I'll go through it with you actually, because I want to. And what we want to find out is a lot about the history first, the history of the home, the history of your family, before we jump to conclusions. We always want to assume what we're dealing with is human, but just because it's human doesn't mean it isn't dangerous, because human beings can be dangerous.
Yeah.
When these other teams came in, did they do anything to actually try to help you?
There was teams that came in looking for evidence. I'm not going to lie, they want to come in and get the evidence because obviously with the stories of Sharon, and Sharon's quite, the whole history is quite well known around Ireland, and especially around Northern Ireland. It's part of history. The house is over 230 years old, so it's got many layers to it. So, but when teams came in, they came in to get the evidence, and I suppose they're trying to help us in a way, because they're trying to determine what exactly is in the house, so that we can know what we're dealing with. And we knew there's other spirits in the house because there has been murders in the house, so we knew that there was spirits that we were seeing, and having other people come in.
So you didn't have anybody actually try to cross it over? You didn't have anybody come in and do a cleansing of the home, a spiritual cleansing?
We've had priests come in and bless the house. We've had psychic mediums to come in trying to clear the house. We have had many blessings, many different people from all different types of backgrounds come in and try to move them on, but teams themselves come in really to gather the evidence. And we've had separate people then come in to try and actually do the blessings and do the errands themselves.
Yeah, I wouldn't have any of those teams come in again. Any teams come in again. Our purpose in the foundation is, our focus is much different. We're there to help you. We're not there to gather evidence. We're not there to make a name for ourselves. All we want to do is help. And if you're not there to help, you shouldn't be there at all. So I'm thinking that if these blessings haven't worked, and I'm very curious as to what these mediums have reported to you. But if this hasn't worked, then we have to look at what's the underlying reasons that these things are not leaving. And one of those reasons is probably because of attention that you're giving it, because of the fact that you and your mother are so open, especially your mother. And we would want to work with both of you to help you with your abilities. I don't know a thing about either of you, and so I'm not going to say that you don't know what you're doing. I'm just saying that's one thing we would look at with any case.
Yes.
You know, I'm speaking in generalizations right now because it isn't really fair to you to give you any answers in only 10 or 15 minutes that we've been talking.
Yeah,
You need
yeah.
to kind of know the whole background, and as I
Yeah.
said, we're a family that's all
Yeah.
quite open. Like it's my sister. My sister be very very open herself too. You know, she was born and like brought into the house from birth. She grew up with it all. She's seen things from. She knows no other life. She's known this all her life. So she's
How old is
probably
she?
very open to it more than she's 17.
So she's still at home.
She's still at home.
Okay. And I'm hoping nobody's used Ouija boards or done seances and things of that nature.
That's one thing we will not allow on the property whatsoever is Ouija boards. It is one thing we have made clear to any teams that came in. It was we do know now, before my parents actually bought the house and renovated it, there was Ouija boards done in the house because the house was derelict. So
They
that's
renovated the
where
home.
door was open. My mum and dad renovated the home, yes.
Yeah, they probably stirred up anything that was in there. Spirits,
Yeah, of course, yeah.
you know, they see it and they're like, what's happening to my house? Why is it changing?
Yeah.
And they get all stirred up. And then they notice how bright your aura is and they're like reaching out. Maybe they've got unfinished business and they're screaming for attention. That's, again, generalizations, but definitely it's interesting to me, and I would love to be able to help you. So let us work on that together if we can.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best route to go, because I think, Emma, there's a lot of things, you know, a lot of personal things and whatnot probably that have gone on in the house that you don't really want to share online live, you know.
Yeah, it's done privately.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So I think it's a good idea to hook you two up privately.
Yeah, after the show.
Yes.
And after the show, we'll send you the link, Emma, for Chris. And, you know, as I say, Chris is a very, very knowledgeable man. You know, I mean, he has dedicated his life to this, and hopefully he'll be able to help you out in some way, shape, or form, or at least even point you in the right direction.
Exactly. It isn't about me. I have a lot of good people who I work with. And if I can't help you, I'm sure one of them can.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Anyhow,
Thank you very much for,
God bless you, Emma.
we'll get that done to you, Emma, after the show. All right. And thank you very much for coming back on again. And we'll be in touch with you after the show.
Great. Thank you now.
Okay, Emma.
You
take care.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Well, that was certainly very helpful for there, Chris. But I do notice also that, and I actually, I kind of actually gel with you on this. Do you know what I mean? Because it's kind of my views on it. And it was a direct quote from yourself. It says, I wish people, I want people to be treating this as a profession. The problem is that these TV shows are so ridiculous.
Yeah. You cannot take care of a case on a television production schedule.
No.
And it's irresponsible. And I've discovered through the errors of my grandparents, and don't get me wrong, in their time, there was no internet. And the only way they could be well known enough to help other families was to advertise the cases they were working on. But I never felt comfortable with that because I saw the effects of that publicity and how it hurt families. We don't do that today, and I never will. I can share specifics about cases, but I'll never share where they took place or the name of the family or anything that can help you identify that family, simply because my clients come first. It's just we treat it almost like we have a Hippocratic oath.
Yeah.
First, do no harm.
Chris, there's a question that I'd like to ask, is that there was a film made, it's the Enfield Poltergeist in England, and they'd filmed that the Warrens had actually been there and they'd done an investigation. Or is there any truth behind that? Were they there, or was that the Enfield poltergeist in England? Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was amazing. I remember when that took place. And my grandfather came back to the United States, and he shared the audio recordings of the demonic voices that were there. Now, Conjuring 2, which deals with that, I have to be very clear about this. Conjuring 2 takes two real cases, Amityville and Enfield, and then goes into Fantasyland. And whole thing where my grandfather's hanging outside of a window by his fingertips holding onto a child, and where my grandmother's got to go through a flooded basement, and heck, even my grandfather playing the guitar never happened.
Okay.
That is not real. But the case itself is real, and there was a great BBC miniseries on the Enfield case that I think did it far more justice.
Yes, about 4 or 5 years ago, it was on the BBC One. I remember watching it. Yeah, it was very, very good.
And I saw it last year on YouTube. It may still be there. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But my grandparents were there. They weren't there long, but they were there. They did an investigation. And one of the things that's not mentioned in the movie, and I don't understand why not, the boy who had a stammer, I don't remember his name. I think it was Timmy or something. He was about 9 years old, and within a few weeks, he aged to death. Now, there's progeria, which will make a person age within about 20 years and die. But he did it in just weeks. And as his coffin was being taken by horse-drawn carriage to the church, there were rocks being thrown at the people on the street, and the voices were materializing and swearing at people on the street. Then, as the coffin was placed in front of the altar, it was flipped over, and the top opened, and the body came out onto the floor. That really happened.
My God.
So there was no human spirit there, as they allude to or even say in Conjuring 2. My grandfather said that he had those voices tested, and no human voice could make those sounds.
Yeah. I think it was a point where she was actually drinking a glass of water, and she was still able to talk in this demonic sound, this voice that was all recorded.
Yes.
And it's well done.
Saw her, one of the girls, pass through a closed window and levitating outside the second floor of the house.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
And around the corner, and then back inside the other closed window. That's not something a human spirit is capable of doing.
No. I remember that being on the documentary, actually. I think it was either a traffic warden or somebody outside that was taking kids across the road. I think she witnessed it. She looked up and she seen that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just one more, because time's getting on. I know you're very, very busy. You've got your show coming up later on this evening.
Actually, I'm not doing it because I've got the virus.
Right, okay. The haunting in Connecticut, another strong case with Warrens.
Actually, it was my case.
Was that your case?
Yeah, I was there for 9.5 weeks straight, every single night. I led that investigation.
Wow. You've done so.
The movie is garbage. I couldn't get through the first 45 minutes of it.
Yeah, I remember they'd done a documentary. It was about 45 minutes, and it was very, very good. Now, probably, you know yourself, you've probably seen it. It was probably way off mark. I don't know, but I actually quite enjoyed it.
No, actually, that documentary, it was called A Haunting in Connecticut. It was about an hour and a half long. It was from the Discovery Channel.
Yes.
And that also was on YouTube for a while. I don't know if it's still there. But that was really, really good. I'm not in it at all, because at that point in my life, I was raising a child and I did not want any publicity. Today, I have no choice. Now that my grandparents are gone, I have no choice but to step forward and keep their work going. So it's a necessary evil. But at that time, I had the luxury of being anonymous.
Yeah, I had the great pleasure actually meeting her. She was here about 12 years ago. She was doing a UK tour.
That's right.
She was in Belfast at the time. I think her son-in-law was with her, the guy with the beard.
Tony.
Tony, that's it. And had the pleasure to talk to her. A beautiful, lovely soul, lovely lady.
Oh, she really was. She
So
really
she
was. She was, and I'm sure many people have seen the videos online. She was actually even more sweet in real life than she is in her videos.
Yeah.
She was an angel.
Yeah, she was lovely. Okay. Well, look, Chris, thank you for coming on. It's been absolutely amazing show. I absolutely loved it, and I could listen to you all night with the experiences that you've came across over the years. And would love to get you back on the show at some later date if you'd be happy to come back on again. Be a pleasure
Certainly.
to have you on.
It's been enjoyable, and hopefully I can actually do it when I'm in Ireland. That would be really enjoyable.
When you're in Ireland, we will definitely meet up with you for a coffee. We'd love to meet up with you.
We will look after you, Chris, when you come over to Ireland.
You will look after well.
We have one of the best American, and I'm not going to mention names or give plugs or anything on this, right? But we have one of the best American restaurants that this country.
Why would I want an American restaurant, for God's sake?
Because we do absolutely amazing barbecue ribs.
No, that's true.
I'll stay with the Irish. Thank you very much.
Stew,
or a good curry.
a bowl of stew, Irish stew.
So, Chris, where can people look you up in the Warren Foundation?
Well, you can go to warrenfiles.com.
Yeah.
Or The Warren Files on our YouTube channel. You can also find us at the Warren Legacy Foundation on Facebook. God knows I'm all over. I think it's Twitter and Instagram. I've got some of my associates helping me with that stuff because I'm not technologically proficient. But if you need help, and that's what really matters, if you need help, find us on Facebook. You can either contact me directly through Chris Mckinnell or through the Warren Legacy Foundation for Paranormal Research, or just go to warrenlegacyfoundation@gmail.com, and we will get the ball rolling on doing whatever we can to help you.
That's amazing. And hopefully we'll know that we'll put you in contact with Emma Louise, and hopefully you can find out exactly what's going on in Sharon Rectory as well. And you're the perfect person to ask. So, Chris, in the meantime, you take care. Hope you get well soon. Look after yourself, and we'll see you hopefully in Ireland within a year or two.
God bless you both. Thank you.
Sincerely hope that, and I know you mentioned that you had the virus, and I sincerely hope that you're with it well.
It's a mild case. I'm staying isolated. I'm fine.
Good.
That's good. That's
well,
well.
and it was a pleasure speaking to you.
You too. Thank you, gentlemen.
We'll talk to you soon.
We'll talk to you. Slán. Goodbye.
You take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
What an amazing gentleman.
Wow, what a show. Fantastic. And the fact that, sometimes when you do these things and you bring people together, I think maybe tonight it was Emma Louise and Chris was to come together to meet on the show to get that connection, and hopefully they can find some type of results of what is actually going on in Sharon Rectory as well. But so I think we're back on again. I'll give a date actually when we're back on again, because of, so the next show that we have on is July the 24th. You're away next weekend, Jared?
I am away with my grandchildren next weekend in the caravan, taking them away to Donegal next weekend. I'm taking them away for a week.
So you deserve it. You deserve the break. So on that show, which is on the Friday, the 24th of July, we do have Gillian Murphy from Awfully Enchanting Tours, and also she's a psychic medium. We have Anne Messy, Irish Paranormal Investigators. And she's also the author of Spook Isles. And we also have a very popular character, Richard Felix. He is the historian of Most Haunted. And we also have a gentleman who has been on Most Haunted, a parapsychologist, a gentleman called Steve Parsons also. So that's going to be an amazing show as well. So guys, we hope you enjoyed it tonight. I enjoyed it. I always enjoy this gentleman beside me here, Mr. Hughes himself. And we hope you enjoyed it. And until the next time, we will talk to you all pretty soon. So for now, take care.
Good
Look
night.
after yourselves.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye.